Hey guys, your average John coming at you with a Diablo Immortal video. I know it's been a minute. I want to take a time and a moment to kind of talk about Diablo Immortal and if it is actually the most successful Diablo game to date. The reason why we're going to talk about this is because Diablo 4 beta is going to launch Friday. We've been playing a lot of D3 to kind of get ready, get prepared for it. And it dawned on me that Diablo Immortal is the first game of its type in the Diablo franchise with the microtransactions, and we're going to dive into and see if this game was actually a failure, a major success. Did it dwarf Diablo 3? We're going to dive right into it because it is a totally different dynamic in the Diablo family. And right now, the game's been out for a long time. Everyone should kind of already have a pretty well-formed opinion on Diablo Immortal. All right, so a lot of you guys know me, Trigger John. I've been doing a lot of Diablo Immortal content and covering the game since it first launched. Now, the game had a lot of controversy right at the beginning, and I think today is a good time to kind of go ahead and talk about basically the success of Diablo Immortal, we'll say, because this game started off with so much adversity, so much hate, that honestly, I'm surprised it's done as well as it has. To be quite frank, I thought Diablo Immortal was going to be the next biggest thing in the Diablo franchise and was going to take it to the moon. I did not realize what they were going to do with the monetization, how well that would get received by the community, and obviously end up to the point of where we have today with Diablo Immortal. Now that we're fast forward several months after launch, I mean, we're literally like almost a year now. I think the game released in May. I think it was May of last year, so we got 2 more months and it'll be a year. So we're getting very, very close to the year mark on Diablo Immortal. So at this point, I think everyone's kind of made an assumption, made a thought, played the game, checked it out, because you saw a major trend going up with the actual statistics of Diablo Immortal and the players and the game, everything else, right? Now, we've also noticed a huge turnover on players who get bored. They phase out, they go back to D3, they go play other games. But Diablo Immortal, I think, served a major purpose that a lot of people, I think a lot of people are kind of undervaluating it. Now, I'm not trying to sit here in a harp that, hey, Diablo Immortal is the best Diablo game out there, the best in the franchise, because it's not. In my personal opinion, this isn't the best Diablo game or the best Diablo that Blizzard really has to offer. The thing is, NetEase made the game. Did Blizzard interact and influence? I'm sure they did, but regardless, this is a mobile game with microtransactions. It's not going to be the same feeling, same effect as your PC client, especially Diablo 4 beta coming out and then Diablo 4 releasing in June. That's something right there in itself that tells you that, hey, that is getting so much hype right now and no negativity because the monetization is different and because they learned from Diablo Immortal. So Diablo Immortal took a major hit from the beginning, and it kind of is relevant in this grand scheme of things, I should say. But the reason why we're going to keep talking about it, and the reason why I kind of want to hit home about it is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here and show you a little bit of data that I have collected. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with Sensor Tower. It's a mobile game, basically a mobile game database. Gives you all kinds of great information. I love using this. Some couple things I want to point out really quickly is the simple fact that, hey, I was correct. It launched May 31st. Worldwide release May 31st. We have 10 million plus downloads. This is just an Android. I want to say Apple's close to the same as well. So you're looking at maybe 20 million downloads so far for Diablo Immortal. It is a free game, right? So downloads, that's to be expected, especially during the high, the big skunk and stink fest about all the orb reloaders, right? Because you could use currency conversion if you transferred your country to Brazil, which is still listed here, right? And get super cheap orbs, right? In other countries where you could just bank it, right? So I think that helped a little bit drive some of the fluff numbers, we'll say. But overall, in general, the game has had a massive following and a massive amount of downloads. And even here, when you come over to the iTunes store, you can see it over here as well. Still major game. I thought it told me how many downloads in Apple. It does not look like it actually told me that information. But anyways, still a lot of downloads, still a lot going on for it. Now, when we talk about the financials when it comes to Diablo Immortal, what I got pulled up here is the fourth quarter, basically the fourth quarter revenue release, right? Like Blizzard Activision is a publicly traded company, so they do have to do a quarterly release to kind of disclose their net income and all the changes, right? So that way their investors kind of know what's going on. They're publicly traded. And depending on how well and how successful their games are doing is how well you see the stock go up and you see the revenue come up. Now, for those of you who are looking at these numbers and listening to what I'm saying and going, John, I don't know what the F that even means. I'm going to explain it just a little bit. I'm not going to go too far deep it down into the rabbit hole because I don't want to confuse you guys. But I found these metrics myself a little bit interesting. And I think that a lot of people who do kind of understand how this works will also find these metrics just a little interesting when we talk about Diablo Immortal, especially if we are trying to understand or correlate and know, like, hey, was this game successful or was it actually a flop? So let's first start off with the simple fact that the numbers you see here aren't the numbers you think. These are all in the amounts of millions. Okay, so this means that this, for example, 948 here is 948 million. Now, am I saying and are they disclosing that Diablo Immortal made that? No, they're not. What they're saying here is mobile and ancillary funds made up $948 million of their total revenue in December, right? So this is close. And then right here, you see last year's, right? So you see the spike here from 833 to 948 million here. Now, there's a few things that go into this. And there's a few takeaways for this as well. Keep in mind, when we go back over here, right? When did Diablo Immortal get released? Okay, it released literally on May 5th, May 31st, sorry, 2022. So when we look at these release notes here, right, you see that this is December, and this is how much it's made, and this is 2021, how much it's made. So you can see that there is 158 million jump from year to year. Now, is this directly affected by Diablo Immortal? It's going to have a little bit to it. It's going to be super relative to it? Not really. Because yes, over the time of a year, a mobile game, for example, Hearthstone, which has had a lot of releases, a lot of bumps to its content to try to get some more financials coming in for it, they don't directly correlate. But the thing to note here is essentially the mobile ancillary, majority of that's going to be coming from both Hearthstone and Blizzard's Diablo Immortal. Now, there are a couple other mobile games that count towards this as well. We got Candy Crush, which is King, right? But this is only disclosing, I don't know that King is distributed in these numbers. It might in fact be, which is kind of harmful to the metric because we all know Candy Crush does better. It's been the number one metric out there for years and years and years. But what I'm trying to get at here is the simple fact that mobile and ancillary made up a total of $948 million, which is 41% of their total revenue in December 31st, 2022, and that's released for that last quarter, right? So what I'm getting at here is mobile is clearly making them a fortune. This tells me that no matter what the success of Diablo Immortal was, per se, the populace, the amount of players coming, mobile itself is making up 41% of their net revenue at the end of the year. And what is one of the bigger titles out there that's going to help contribute to this? And that's going to be Diablo Immortal. We already know Diablo Immortal has made over $300 million, right? This was disclosed, I want to say, in December of last year. So we already know they made over $300 million, right? Because now we're 3 months later, clearly that's going to increase. That was done in less than a time frame of a year. That's pretty massive and pretty impactful. And especially when we compare it to its predecessor, right? Like Diablo 3. So if we bring up Diablo 3 here, and this is going to be a little, it's not a full picture, but it's going to give you a little bit of a representation here, is you can see that on launch day, Diablo 3 accumulated over 3.5 million sales in the first 24 hours. That's huge, right? Because Diablo 3 didn't have, it wasn't microtransactions. It was, you buy the game at release. It's not free to play. So that was a huge thing, 3.5 million in 24 hours. Diablo Immortal obviously went a lot harder than that. We all know that. 6.3 million sales in the first week. Once again, Diablo Immortal, I think it was the first 2 weeks was over 100 million or 50 million, something like that was the report. And 1.2 million people who obtained Diablo 3 through the World of Warcraft annual pass on its first day. The game amassed 4.7 million players worldwide. So 4.7 million players Worldwide, on launch, that's a massive player base. Diablo 3 started off amazing. Now, did Diablo Immortal follow the same trend? Not exactly. Diablo Immortal had a lot of hurdles. It had a lot of obstacles to overcome. The servers were terrible. Myself, I remember taking time off work trying to go play it, and it was a bust. I shouldn't have wasted my time. But ended up working out okay. I ended up getting to play it. But the other takeaway here is basically that Blizzard, so expectations of July 12th, more than 10 million people had played the game, and Diablo 3 remains the fastest selling PC game to date. Now, it's a PC game, right? That wasn't included with mobile because it's a free-to-play game. Now, does this mean that Diablo Immortal is anywhere close to D3? Game-wise, I wouldn't say it is. Depth-wise, definitely not. But you can see here by May 2013, Diablo 3 had been played by 14.5 million unique players. So that means over 14.5 million copies of the game, on top of multiple copies of the game for people who were shadowboxing, farming, especially at the beginning with the Real Money Auction House. That was a huge thing. And it sold over 30 million worldwide by August 2015. So this is pretty massive. So 30 million by 2015. Keep in mind, this game launched in 2012. And they're talking 30 million copies by then, right? We already have on Diablo Immortal 10 million here, probably close to 10 million here. So you're looking at almost 20 million in itself, and this isn't even the first year. So in itself, when you compare Diablo Immortal to D3, it's actually a lot bigger a deal in a game than what a lot of people are going to give it credit for. Now, I don't have the final metrics for how many copies have D3 has actually been sold, especially now after probably by 2015. The prices dropped, there's sales, there's everything else, right? I do think Diablo 3 is still a big title. A lot of people are playing it, even though the game is super old, it's still relevant, right? And with Diablo 4 coming out, I don't know if it's going to necessarily kick Diablo 3 off the hill, but I'm really interested to see how well it does, because it never dawned on me until the other day when I was kind of looking into just some metrics in general. And I noticed the fact that, you know what, we haven't really talked about how successful Diablo Immortal has been. Game-wise, I don't hate the game. I don't mind the game. I enjoy playing it here and there when I get time. I'm definitely casual. I'm going to go casual on it because the depth of the game just isn't there. I'm a Path of Exile, or I used to play Path of Exile and a D3 player, right? So I'm used to a little bit more depth, and especially when it comes to Path of Exile, I'm used to a lot more diversity, a lot more things to do in a game, and Diablo Immortal just didn't have it. But that didn't make it a bad game. Gameplay was great. WASD control was amazing. That was a huge bonus and thing that I think that was a great trial and error for them to learn from, and I really hope they put that into D4. Now, Diablo Immortal, I would say, has definitely been a success. I would say, not just like all the other Diablo franchise launches, when we look at the history, right, the trend of when the Diablo 1 launched, Diablo 2 launched, Diablo 3 launched. I've got an article actually on AftershockUnited.gg where I kind of talk about the launch of those games and just the exponential amount of both player base, revenue, and obviously graphics requirements, right? When it comes to like talking about PCs and stuff like that, games being able to play the games, or PCs being able to play the games, so on and so forth. Everything has really escalated and gone higher. Now, you could argue, yes, inflation is a thing, which it definitely is. Definitely is something to be aware of. But at the end of the day, the revenue that you're talking about versus amount of copies sold, Diablo Immortal has been a solid competitor, and I think at this point we can probably safely assume it has been the biggest cash cow of the Diablo franchise. Now, is that necessarily something to write home about? I'm going to go ahead and say yes, mainly because as a company, and I know a lot of people who are going to watch this video are going to kind of hate this topic or hate this point of view, but the makers of Diablo Immortal are trying to make money. Why are they trying to make money? Because it's a for-profit company. That's what they need to do to pay their employees and develop other games, like Diablo 4 that's launching this week, right? Or the beta, that's launching this week. Like, you have to have those games as stepping stones and make the financial return on investment to come up and continue business. Diablo Immortal tried a brand new monetization scheme. Financially, I think that was probably the best scheme they've ever done, and I think they're going to have a hard time moving away from it, especially on mobile games, because it's been proven to be so effective. I think what will happen is Blizzard may shy away from it just a little bit on further games and game releases, just simply for the fact of the negative clout that did come with it, right? Like, there was a lot of mass hate for the game, which really killed honestly a lot of potential for it. We all thought this would be the next AAA title on a mobile device, right? And unfortunately, the negative comments and the heat really got to the game. But overall, in general, I do think Diablo Immortal has probably been the biggest success of the Diablo franchise. And statistically, the numbers are fairly there to kind of support it, to be honest. Now, there are some fudges here, and this would be really nice if they did an itemized breakdown, right? Because there's also things to consider, like other apps that are going to go into this mobile and ancillary division. I think actually even Call of Duty Mobile will go into here too. That's mostly cosmetic skins. But, you know, people like to spend money on that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of more fluff, so to speak, in these numbers. But notice the trends, right? The trends don't lie. The fact that you're talking 47%, 41% here, you're talking an increase every time. You're talking this is going to be something that's definitely been very beneficial to the Blizzard Activision team. And has probably helped fund a lot of the fun stuff that we like to know and hear about, right? Like Diablo 4 that's coming. Overall, in conclusion to this video, guys, I can definitely say Diablo Immortal is not a bad game. I would definitely say it's probably the most successful game. And a lot of people out there who are like, you know what, Diablo Immortal's got to be banned, it's got to whatever. You can have your own opinion, just like I'm entitled to my own opinion as well. But at the end of the day, they picked a business market and it worked for them. And I think that's the real takeaway here. That's gonna go ahead and that's gonna do it for me, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Maybe that gave you a little bit more thought of the game, kind of get some wheels turning a little bit. I'm gonna be coming back probably the rest of the week. We're gonna be doing a lot of D4 content on the channel, and yeah, we're gonna be going super hard on it when it launches. I think you should already see my avatar has been changed and my banner has been changed as well. The intro change is on its way, and yeah, can't wait to see you guys until the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.